So at what point does searching for information become an invasion of privacy? And what I'm talking about more specifically is I came across an article earlier today, and I have noticed recently several comments, questions on various platforms, wondering about Bryan Kohberger's family, raising these questions, wanting to pry into their personal life. Why was his sister fired? So where do we draw the line with this thing? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. And if an open conversation is something you prefer, then this is the place for you. Welcome to The Point, so let's talk about it.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
First and foremost, the vast majority of people on these platforms are raising questions, looking at information, posting their opinions, and doing it in a respectful manner. So I'm not specifically trying to target anybody. But there have been forums, there have been Facebook groups, there has been some videos made on here inquiring about Bryan Kohberger's family, wanting to know their history. And I think a lot of people need to understand is when you look at a court case, you look at a trial, you'll see the prosecution and you'll see the victims behind the prosecution. You'll see the defendant, the accused, as they plead their case for innocence. But a lot of people fail to look behind the defendant. There are people there. And more often than not, those people had nothing to do with what happened. Those people aren't responsible in a lot of cases of the actions of the accused. In fact, they're victims too. And where do we draw the line with this thing? Take everything that happened in Moscow. There's been thousands and thousands of videos on this particular case. And we've seen videos about Bryan Kohberger. We've seen videos about the victims. We've seen videos about the city of Moscow. We've seen videos about the surviving roommates. And I've done a lot of videos on those same subjects when I see questions about it. And those are considered a piece of this whole mystery right now. And those are considered a piece of the case here. And then you have people doing videos on Kaylee's family or videos on the 48-hour story with the interviews with family members. And when these people step out into the public, they do garner attention. Mostly good, some bad, but they are openly engaging themselves in the conversation. And to a degree, yes, that would make them fair game. Now, me personally, I believe if you're going to talk about it respectfully. But in the search for answers, and some would say in the search for views, people are starting to inquire about Bryan Kohberger's family. They're not stepping out into the spotlight. In fact, it seems they're doing the exact opposite. They're wanting to keep to themselves. I'm sure they've hired an attorney. And they don't want to give any interviews here. And why would they? A member of their family has been charged with a horrendous crime, and his guilt or innocence is yet to be determined. But they haven't openly engaged in the public conversation. So why go after them? Why inquire about their past? There's been no evidence to suggest they had any involvement whatsoever. There's no evidence to suggest that they have had any type of criminal history or have been participating in anything illegal. So what benefit is this bringing? If we're going to be on here and we're going to be making content for all of you, it seems to me that there is an unspoken rule about boundaries. At least on the surface, seems to me that there is a rule about not crossing a line, not injecting your own self into the situation. But there's a lot of people on various forums and to an occasion here who aren't quite understanding that. You know, there's an old saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But also, a rotten apple spoils the bunch. And if people can't be respectful and understand that there are limits to this thing, then they do, to a degree, depending on their actions in the future, run the risk of causing problems for a whole lot of other people. The people on social media making content, making TikToks, posting things on Facebook posts, you know, As far as the general media is concerned, we have a bad rap. There's a lot of stuff that is said, and there's a lot of videos that are made. There is a lot of stuff that is made that isn't necessarily aligning with the mainstream media's point of view. And it's fine, because there's a lot of us who don't necessarily agree with a lot of what mainstream media has to say. And asking questions should be okay. Asking questions about these cases should be okay. Raising your own theories and speculation and engaging with your audience should be okay. But intentionally trying to root into the lives of people who have suffered just as much as the victims' families and that city seems a bit tasteless. Now listen, I got a small channel here, and really what I say doesn't matter a whole lot. And really my question to y'all would be, where is the line? Where is the limit? If we know individuals don't have anything to offer to the overall discussion of a particular story, of a particular case, should they be off limits? Is that an unwritten rule? Or just let me know I'm completely off base. If they share the last name, they're fair game. Now, at the end of the day, this is just a small channel, simply created to have open discussions from as many points of view as possible pertaining to a subject. And that was an area I thought was lacking on this platform. So that's all I'm trying to do. And if you disagree with anything I say right here, you can let me know down in the comments below and let me know where you're coming from with it. But I just started seeing a lot of things pop up, prying into people's personal lives and personal history when they have done nothing to warrant a public conversation, because they're not injecting themselves into the public conversation. And I felt like I'd make a little video on it. So there's no mysteries or speculation here right now. I'm just posing a question and wondering, where do we draw the line with this thing? But that's all I have. Other than that, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. Y'all stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.